DEMOCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. We're delighted you could join us. Big show on hand here. And of course, there's a very important issue to this entire community on the ballot. We've got a great guest with us tonight that's going to talk about that. Remind our viewers who you are.
Joe, Rob Hayworth, Superintendent of Schools, Vigo County Schools.
Dr. Hayworth, we've got some big topics to talk about tonight that are coming up in the next few days and are taking place as we're voting now. But I wanted to see if we could get you to talk a little bit about yourself. I know that you are busy every day with work at the school corporation, and you've been here long enough in the community that you've become a Hoshin on us here. But remind our viewers a little about your background, though.
First, I'm going to go here, Joe. You know, last time I came in, saw the jacket, and I felt underdressed. So I went out and tried to get myself a plaid jacket, but it still pales in comparison to the chair's jacket.
Well, we appreciate your effort, though.
I try to pick up my game just a little bit.
We appreciate that.
No, we're here. This is our fourth year here in Terre Haute and in Vigo County. I have here with me my wife of 33 years, Amy, and we came from a little small town in southern Indiana called Paoli, Indiana. My son, Eric, he is a senior at South, and my daughter, a recent graduate from Purdue. She's now living in Terre Haute and is working for Thrive here in town on an internship. So she'll be doing that for 2 years, and I think she's thinking about a career and some of the things we talk about here in politics. So we'll see how that plays out.
Let's talk about your journey into education. How did that all take place?
Yeah, I am by my bachelor's training at Greenville College in Illinois, small college in southern Illinois. I came out of there and was a government teacher and an econ teacher and baseball coach, basketball coach, whatever they needed me to coach. And as my career evolved, I spent most of my teaching career in southern Indiana at a little place called Du Bois in Jasper, in Du Bois County, next to Jasper, Indiana. There I became varsity basketball coach, again, coached government and econ, and really got my first administrative position. I was asked to come and coach basketball at French Lick in Springs Valley, and also be a combination of things: transportation director, athletic director, everything that somebody does at a very small school. Then from there, most of my other administrative career had been in northern Indiana. Most recently, before my stop here, I was the superintendent of Elkhart for 6 years.
So your basketball background, how did that get started?
It's really just up through the grades. I coached whatever they asked me to coach, and one year I was the 8th grade coach. We had some decent seasons. A few years later, I was the freshman coach, had a few decent seasons, and then finally ended up on the bench at the varsity level. And coach came in and said, "Hey, I'm retiring, and I think the board would like for you to be the head basketball coach here." So that's how that started. The change, the move to French Lick. I'm from Orange County, and plus all the tradition that surrounds French Lick basketball. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to coach in my home county, and had that opportunity. I'm glad I did, but just like Rick Pitino talking about Larry Bird's not going to walk through that door. Larry wasn't, Eddie wasn't, none of the Birds were, so moved out of that into administration.
So if I was preparing to play against the Rob Hayworth coach basketball team, what am I going to expect to see?
You're going to probably, if you like up and down, you're probably not going to enjoy the style of basketball that we would play. We would see something probably more in the fashion of what you'd see at Bar Reeve or what you would see at Lagodi. We're going to play pretty good defense, and we're going to take care of the basketball, and we're going to limit your shots, and we're going to take high percentage shots, and we're going to make our free throws and get to the free throw line and do it the old-fashioned way and the traditional way. We probably wouldn't be a lot of high screen and roll and penetrate and dish of what you see today. We would try to control tempo as much as we could.
So, of course, at the professional level and the collegiate level, we see a shot clock. What's the superintendent's view of the shot clock in high school?
Before class basketball, I would have said there's no need. That gives the advantage to that smaller team, that more disciplined team. Now with class basketball, I mean, I'm still not in favor. I still like the idea of a coach being able to spread the floor out and control that tempo. But class basketball, I think, has made that change. I lived through that switch. I tell this story that probably takes you, if you're from a small school, to get to that regional level, that semi-state level, before you play in front of crowds like you did under the traditional system of one-class basketball.
So making the leap from being a coach to an administrator, talk about what went into that decision, how difficult that was, because obviously you know how much time is spent in coaching, not that it's not spent in administrating, but there are different types of hours.
Yeah, I tell this story. Twice I've had for sale signs placed in my yard, and I'm reluctant to say this because fear that one would end up in my front yard right now, but they all occurred while I was coaching basketball and never as a superintendent. There was one class that, if I could have got somebody to buy my house because graduation really wasn't going to help us, I think there are some similarities. You're going to look at your data. You're going to make corrections based upon what your data is telling you. You're going to plan, and you're not just going to plan for the cycle of the season. You're going to plan ahead of time, looking at what grades, what classes that you have coming forward. Obviously, the criticism and being ready, you're going to make a bad call on a Friday night or a Saturday night, you're going to know immediately that you made a bad call. So, prepping yourselves for the struggles when people disagree. But what's at stake is you're just not that team of 12 basketball players in that basketball family. You're making decisions and taking those recommendations to a school board. For us, it's going to impact 13,500 students.
I think there was a famous coach that was asked that about his salary compared to the college presidents. He said, well, I had a better year than the college presidents. So
Yes.
There's that adage. But,
Yeah.
of course, your path in administration led you to Vigo County.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about what a difference that was, where you came from, and what you found when you got to Vigo County.
Well, we've enjoyed our 4 years. Part of our reason of moving here is what we're doing right now. The other part of that was to be closer to family. And, right now, my parents, both in their 80s, we've been able, having some health issues. We've been able to bring them here to Terre Haute and to stay with us. And, it's been great to have them here and be close by. I have other relatives that live in the Bedford, Indiana, so it's been a nice way to help take care of your parents as they're aging. But we have found a very welcoming spirit here, and I think that when we came here, we were interested in the possibility of could we help Vigo County with this facilities question, which dates back well before me in terms of what are we going to do with the high schools. What we really weren't prepared for was COVID-19 and that disruption of the last 2 or 3 years. But we're back on track. We believe we're taking a project to the community that the community said we wanted. We took numerous concepts to our community, 1 high school, 2 high schools. Overwhelmingly, those that attended our community meetings rejected that. They said we wanted a 3 high school format. So we laid out 3 brand new high schools, 3 renovated high schools, or a combination of the 2. Looking at trying to create a 25 to 30 year facility plan. We chose the mixture of the 2 because what it does, the The referenda, its focus is on the high school, but it allows us to use capital projects and other things to really make sure that our elementaries and our middle schools don't get in this same shape that our high schools get into.
Of course, we've talked about people currently voting, and this issue is going to be on the ballot for those who go in and vote early and those who show up on election day. But the groundwork for this issue was worked on well before election day. So talk about these meetings, when they occurred, and how many there were.
Yeah, so it actually begins in 2018 when I got here. We went around, we had public listening sessions in every school that we had, and the reoccurring theme at that point in 2018 is we've got to address the high schools. So we took that information and started to create a strategic plan, a 5-year plan for the district. We did that in 2019. And again, that theme of we need to address the high school, so we embedded it in that strategic plan in 2020. We had in the plan that we would address those facility needs in 2021, but COVID would not allow us to get out and do some of the things that we're doing right now that I think you need to do to communicate to your community why this project is important. And so here we are, we're a year late in terms of what our plan actually said, but we're here and we're making that ask.
Have you ever sat down and put pencil to paper to figure out how many of those community meetings you've actually been involved in?
Yeah, we stopped counting after 200. So, and that's 200 dating back all the way to 2018.
Okay. And in the course of those, what would you say the relative participation of the community has been in attending those and their participation at those meetings?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely saw times where we had great participation, great attendance before the pandemic. But when we came out of the pandemic, what we noticed was that participation fell off. So, everybody was used to working online and doing things online, so we kind of changed our format and we started to try to do virtual meetings. We also started to try to do surveying directly on community members' phones to try to get that input. So it caused us to, the pandemic caused us to change our model. But who's not changing their model right now? If you're a small businessman, if you're trying to run a hospital or major manufacturing here in town, you've probably had to adjust, and that's what we did to try to continue to gather data in terms of what does our community want to do to address facilities.
Of course, the plan is very comprehensive, and you could speak for hours about that plan, but if you had to pull out from those community meetings the single most important recurring theme that came to you, what would you say that would be?
Yeah, I think it's two things. First of all, our students deserve better, and our teachers deserve better. Great teachers, which we are blessed to have and so grateful that we do have them, because they're teaching in those conditions right now. And a great teacher can teach anywhere. The question that we should be asking ourselves in Vigo County, should they have to? Or should we provide them a classroom environment that helps promote learning, that takes their talents to a different level because they're not worried about the ceiling and the roof leaking. They're not worried about, is it going to be 90 degrees in my room today, or is it going to be 30 degrees in my room today? Or if I'm a teacher and I've got my 5-minute break, is the bathroom right down the hall going to be working, or am I going to have to go somewhere else in the building to use those facilities? Or something, does my science lab work? And does it function properly? Or do we have a class of 25 students and we're all going to have to gather around the last working science lab within that building? And then you can see how that carries into our students. Our students need to take a look at their facilities and have great pride of where I spend my days and my educational environment. And when you look at that environment, what is the community saying to me about what they're providing for me? And I think that if I had to, why right now, those are the two cornerstones, I think, of why we're pursuing this. At other levels, our ability to attract and retain people, it's no mystery we're getting smaller. We're getting smaller as West Central Indiana. We're getting smaller as Vigo County, and as a result, we're getting smaller as a school corporation. And so, I would put those two things as cornerstones, and then I would say, where do we fit in this algebra of local economics? And we're definitely in the formula. I don't know if we're the chicken or the egg, but we are definitely in the mix of how we can help affect change in regards to our local economy.
So as a person who uprooted his family, came from another school district and came here, immersed himself in the community, moved into the heart of the city, and then as the superintendent of the corporation, would you agree with the community's cornerstones, the issues that they raise at those meetings, that those are, in fact, two of the most important issues facing the school corporation and the community?
Yeah, I mean, it is very rare that this does not happen when I meet someone. When I meet someone, they come up and they'll tell me what elementary school they went to, what middle school they went to, what high school they attended. If it was before 1972, why it was a mistake to consolidate into the 3 high schools that we have. There's a great deal of pride within our community in regards to public school. And so what we're trying to do is just, open the eyes of those that maybe don't have children in school, or, who are also, struggling to fill their gas tank up right now, to why we need to do this and why we need to do it right now. I hate it that gas prices and inflation are where they're at right now. But if you just think about North and South, and from 1972 to today, think of the number of recessions our nation has gone through in the life of those schools. We see the peaks and valleys of an economy through the decades of a school's physical school's lifetime. That's true for these schools. And so what's true and may be difficult right now in our economy, 6 months from now when we may be taking these projects to bid, we could maybe be in a totally different economic environment and climate. And the other thing that I observe here, think of the blessings that we do have. Think of the higher ed that's in this community. What other community would not want to have higher ed like we have here? What other community would not want to have a major airport that any kind of plane could land on? Interstate, really literally running through our backyard. Though it's a pain sometimes, rail that crisscrosses across our community. Those are the assets that you would find in thriving communities, and my hope is that our school project will be some part of that will help us, again, thrive, grow. I think there are 8 districts in my mind, 8 communities, not districts, in my mind, in the state of Indiana that are growing. I would like for Vigo County and Terre Haute to be the 9th.
So with regard to the issue that people are seeing on the ballots that are voting early and those that are going to be waiting to election day to go vote in a week, let's talk about that issue and see if you can just inform our viewers about the importance of that issue and what they should consider when they vote.
Yeah, so it is question 1. When you open that question up, it will be, I guarantee you, it'll be the longest question that you've ever seen on a ballot. I think the voters need to realize we did not write that question. The state of Indiana has authored that question.
And explain to the viewers why that is.
I think it's school corporations and communities historically overcoming the referenda question. And so what you see is we're a referenda state through time. Schools understand how to work the language and how to communicate the language. And so I think we're on our 4th or 5th version of questions that could be asked. So it basically starts out, do you want your property taxes to increase? It doesn't begin by saying, here's the age of our buildings, here's the condition of our buildings. Then it moves into a percentage. There was a time where it was pretty easy to look at the question and calculate what it meant to you. So in our case right now, our portion of a person's property taxes is 98 cents. And as Larry DeBoer recently said, Purdue economist, we're in the lower half of the state in terms of our tax rate. And so here we sit at 98 cents. And if you can afford that right now, what we're asking you to do is, can you go another quarter per 100? So no one has a $100 home. But if you did right now, out of that $100, what you would do is you would, through your taxes, property taxes, pay us net 98 cents. You just do the math in relationship to your assessed valuation. And again, no one has a $100 home. But what is true is, for us in Vigo County, for 52% of all homeowners, 52% of all homeowners, it will be $7 or less more a month for them to support new high schools. Take another 38%, it's $14 or less. So for about 88% of our community, that's what the cost of seeing new high schools will be. And again, remember, that helps the high schools, but it also helps protect what we've been trying to do the last 4 or 5 years with regards to maintaining roofing on our elementaries, plumbing in our elementaries, paving in our elementaries and middle schools. So we would have liked to have been able to tell you what it actually meant to you as you
So
went
it's
in
fair
there.
to say if you would have been writing the question or could have submitted the question on their ballot, it would have been framed differently than as it appears.
Oh yes, it would have said, hey, the operational referenda that we're currently under, we're going to end that 3 years early. And we're going to do that because we've tried to stay disciplined in our finances. We have been able to get some government assistance that is helping us, but we'd love to be able to say that. And I think that's what is throwing a lot of people off when they read that 55%, is the lack of those types of pieces of understanding.
So the viewers that may not have seen it or won't see it till they open their ballot, they may be surprised by the language they see. Is that correct?
That is correct. And in fact, on Monday, the board is going to take action to officially bring that operational referenda to an end at the end of 2024 if we win on May 3rd. And so when they take that action, that question will no longer factually be correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So with regard to then the information that the voters and our viewers are going to see, how do they process that? What's the choice, the option that they have then on the ballot?
So it is a straight up yes or no vote. So yes, you help us create a 25-year facility plan that targets our high schools. 60% brand new construction, 40% renovation down to the stud, to the point when you walk into those buildings you'll think they're completely brand new. But at the same time, protecting your local elementary school, the infrastructure systems there, as well as your local middle school.
And needless to say, I don't know if you anticipated when you moved from coaching to administration that you were going to be doing as much politicking as you have to do, but you are clearly out campaigning. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are. In fact, I think I had 3 stops today, 4 stops yesterday. But I think you also do that a little bit in basketball too. We had an establishment in DuBois County. Regardless of win or loss, you would always go to that establishment right after a game. And so if you lost, you went in there and you took your lumps. But if you won, you went in there and enjoyed the company. But you try to be the same person every time, win or lose. And here in this situation, we hope that our community rallies around this question, rallies around our children, rallies around our teachers, and brings these new buildings. Because it will be different than losing a basketball game here. We will begin patching the high schools. And when we begin patching those high schools, it will probably take needed dollars away from the maintenance of your elementary school or of your middle school. That pot is just not big enough to go around.
Those who are obviously out and about and attending events, you're campaigning and just driving around the community, they see yard signs, they see billboards. Just to be clear, are those things that are being funded by taxpayers?
No, they're not. In fact, when the board in January took this action, it's established a date and time where no school funds could ever be spent. And so what you're seeing there are people, just like they would donate to any political campaign for a candidate, people that are donating politically to try to get this measure successfully passed.
So you brought along Miss Danielson last time we had a chance to chat. And of course, I don't know if we scared her off with the blazer or attacking Iowa basketball. I'm not sure which, but she's obviously integral part of the PAC, and they've gone about raising funds and putting the billboards, the yard signs, et cetera, throughout the community.
Yeah, no. In fact, I think she's at an event right now. But no, they have done an excellent job of trying to tell our message. You know, we've tried to make a case for the condition of the high schools, and you know, now as we go into these last 2 weeks, I think we need to do a really good job of telling what does this mean to a student, what does this mean for a teacher, and what does it mean for years to come, and what do we want to tell our youth about how we feel education is important to them.
So we're definitely advising our viewers on public question number 1 to vote yes.
Vote yes. When you open it up, again, you have to scroll the question 4 times to actually read the entire question. So vote yes on May 3rd.
So of course, you know, they're talking about what did Coach Self tell his Kansas basketball team at halftime when they went out to come back and win that national championship, and everybody wants to know what was said in the locker room. So we're in the locker room here. We're about halftime, but people have been voting early for a couple of weeks here, and we're coming into the home stretch. So you're in the locker room here. What's Coach Hayworth going to tell our viewers and voters about this referendum?
Well, we would stay true to who we are. As we step into the last 2 weeks of this campaign, we've worked very hard to get here. We need to double those efforts as we step into these last 2 weeks. If there's a door that we've not knocked on, we need to knock on it. If there's a phone that we haven't called, we need to call it. Because on May 4th, we don't want to regret our effort. And that's what we can control here is our effort. And if we wake up on May 4th, I think our effort will lead us to a successful outcome.
Now there wasn't, I think maybe Self was accused of using a profanity, so that was a lot cleaner version than maybe what was taking place in the Kansas locker room. But the message is still the same.
Yeah.
So we're directing the people out there. So final word, Coach Hayworth.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing you show up to vote, voting now or voting on May the 3rd, and we ask you to please vote yes. Vote yes for our students, vote yes for our teachers, and vote yes for our future. Thank you.
Can't summarize it any better than that. We appreciate you joining us, and we encourage everybody to get out and vote. There's so many opportunities to vote, whether it's on Election Day or leading up to these next few days before Election Day, but we encourage you to vote. We appreciate Dr. Hayworth, all that he's doing, and that whole action committee for our students and for the future of Eagle County. So we ask you to vote yes on public question number 1. I'm Joe Etling for Chat with the Chair. Thank you for joining us. Until our next chat, be safe. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
AMOCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere.